welcome back to Chapter Day. Happy Tuesday, last day of the year. Wow, end of 2024, moving into another year, 2025. God alone knows what's going to be in store for us, but we hope for the best. Yeah, hope keepeth alive, maketh alive. So we are going to hope for the best of everything in our lives, and as God blesses us, we take it and use it to benefit ourselves and others. So today we are going into 2 Kings chapter 6. Before I read, I just want to recount what happened yesterday about Elisha. He did that was the one that he did. I think it had to do with, okay, we had an axe beam that fell from one of the prophets, because I guess they were staying with Elisha and they wanted maybe to make their own little house or whatever, and they were going to cut down trees. And while in cutting down the trees, one of the prophets had an axe that was borrowed, and the axe head fell off into the water. So he ran to Elisha crying, "Hey master, my axe, is falling off, and I borrowed it." And Elisha had the axe float up to the top of the water. Never heard of iron floating, but again, that's God's hand in it. And then let's see what else happened. The Syrians, every time the Syrians were going to come against Israel, God gave Elisha the heads up, and he was able to warn the king of Israel not to go in that place. And the king of Syria kind of wondered, why is it every time I'm coming against the children of Israel, they know? And one of his servants said, it's Elisha. So he sent his soldiers to capture Elisha. And Elisha's servant was afraid, because like I said, he might have been a new one, seeing he replaced Gehazi. So he asked God to open his servant's eyes, and the servant was able to see chariots of fire around and horsemen from God. And I would always say, I don't know what that would have looked like, but he was assured. And what Elisha prayed was that God would confuse the Syrian soldiers with blindness. And I'm thinking this was not literal blindness, this was spiritual blindness, or blindness that had them confused. They weren't aware where they were. And he told them, hey, I'm going to lead you to the man you're looking for. And he led them out of where he was into the middle of Samaria, where the Israelites were. And the king of Israel said, should I smite them? And he said, no, don't smite them. So he told them, feed them. So they fed the Syrian soldiers, and they returned to their camp. But then the king of Syria sent out soldiers to besiege or to surround the city of Samaria. And that created a famine in the land, because no one could go out or come in. And people were beginning to eat things that they won't normally, unclean things like a donkey's head and dove's dung, and each other, their children. They had two women who were contending for each other's child to eat. So when the king of Samaria heard that, he was really wrought with Elisha, because I believe he blamed Elisha for what was taking place. Very much like with Ahab and Elijah. Let's go on. Chapter 7. Then Elisha said, hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. Then the Lord, on whose hand the king leaned, answered the man of God and said, behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be? And he said, behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof. And there were 4 leprous men at the entering in of the gate, and they said one to another, why sit we here until we die? If we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit still here, we die also. Now therefore come, and let us fall unto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall but die. And they rose up in the twilight to go unto the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, There was no man there. Okay, so here's what's happening. Famine in the land of Samaria, in the city of Samaria. And Elisha told the king, he told the king that tomorrow there will be flour sold for a shekel and barley sold for a shekel. Okay, two measures and 1 measure. And someone was asking, is that going to be so? One of the king's servants was asking, or one of the king's lords, how is that going to be? And Elisha told them, it will take place, but you won't see it. That means he may not even be alive. And then there were 4 leprous men. So these men had leprosy. And they were looking for food as everyone else. But I don't know if they were in the city itself. So what they said is, if we go into the city of Samaria, there's a famine, we're going to die. If we stay out here, we have no food, we're going to die. So let's go over to where the Syrians are camping. They have the food. If they kill us, hey, we just die. And if they keep us alive, hey, what could we lose? So they are like 4 men with nothing to lose. They are leprous, they're already outcast, they're hungry, so they're taking a chance. And when they go to the Syrian camp, it's empty. There's no one there. Verse 6. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots, and the noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, Lo, the king of Israel hath hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us. Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents and their horses and their asses, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. And when these lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent, and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it, and came again, and entered into another tent, and carried thence also, and went and hid it. Then they said one to another, We do not well. This day is a day of good tidings. And we hold our peace, and we tarry till the morning light. Some mischief will come upon us. Now therefore, come, that we may go and tell the king's household. So they came and called unto the porter of the city, and they told them, saying, We came to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no man there, neither voice of man, but horses tied and asses tied, and the tents as they were. Oh boy. I tell you, sometimes if we sit where we are and wait, we don't accomplish anything. We have to go forth in boldness and bravery and say, you know what? If I perish, I perish. Sometimes that's it. That's what these leprous men did. They say, you know, if we perish, we perish. It couldn't get any worse. So they went into the Syrian camp. There was no one there. Why? Because God had confused, just like he did with the first set of Syrian armies. He confused them, that they thought they heard chariots coming from the Israelites. And it sounded like the Israelites had gotten other nations to fight with them. And they were afraid, and they fled and left everything as is in their camp. And this is what the Syrians found. And they started clearing out things and hiding it and eating and drinking all the food that was left back, until finally they said, you know what, this is not right for us to just enjoy this by ourselves. We need to go back and let the king know. Amazing. Verse 11. And he called the porters, and they told it to the king's house within. And the king arose in the night and said unto his servants, I will now show you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we be hungry, therefore are they gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, When they come out of the city, we shall catch them alive and get into the city. And one of his servants answered and said, Let some take, I pray thee, 5 of the horses that remain, which are left in the city. Behold, they are as all the multitude of Israel that are left in it. Behold, I say, they are even as all the multitude of the Israelites that are consumed. And let us send and see. They took therefore 2 chariot horses, and the king sent after the host of the Syrians, saying, Go and see. And they went after them unto Jordan, and lo, all the way was full of garments and vessels which the Syrians had cast away in their haste. And the messengers returned and told the king. So the king was not really believing that this was so. So he kind of sent out spies ahead to take some of the horses and go in, just a few of them, to see if it's really so. And while they were going, they realized, hey, everything is just thrown all over. They really ran away in haste and fear. So let's see what's next. So they returned and told the king what they saw. Verse 16, and the people went out and spoiled the tents of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. And the king appointed the Lord on whose hand he leaned to have the charge of the gate. And the people trode upon him in the gate, and he died, as the man of God had said, who spake when the king came down to him. Remember the Lord that said, shall this thing be? And Elisha told him, yeah, tomorrow it shall happen, but you won't see it. God's word. Oh my goodness. Verse 18, and it came to pass as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel, shall be tomorrow about this time in the gate of Samaria. And that Lord answered the man of God and said, now behold, if the Lord should make windows in heaven, might such a thing be? Well, you know what? God did make windows in heaven, and so it was. And he said, behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not eat thereof. Because that's what Elisha had told him. And so it fell out unto him, for the people trod upon him in the gate, and he died. You know, sometimes when we doubt God's word, we just set ourselves up for failure. When God says something and we start saying nay or what or if or maybe, God is God. God is supreme. You may not like what God is saying that will happen, but you know what? God said it, and God's word does not fall and disappear. It will come to pass, whatever God says. God's word is him. It's like his seal. When God says it, you consider it done in whatever time frame he allows. So that is what happened. Because of his disbelief, that Lord, he got trampled on and he died. And the flour and the barley was sold in Samaria. Now, I don't know if a shekel was a low cost thing or if it was very expensive. You know, maybe they were paying a lot for a little or a little for a lot. I'm not quite sure which way it goes. But it did happen according as Elisha said. And so the people were able to get food right from the same Syrians that were blocking them at the beginning. You see how God works things out? Oh my gosh, were we to just trust? God can do anything. You know, sometimes I tell people certain things and they're like, man, no, I have to do this. No, we can't just wait. No, we have. And I understand, yes, sometimes we have to do. It's just like a miracle happening right away. And sometimes it's being a process before the person is healed. It's the same thing. It's the same things. Your experience with God and how God will work with you may not be someone else's experience. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Okay? So, that's the end of chapter 7 of 2 Kings. I just want to say sometimes when I do my videos, you might hear some strange noises in the background. I have no control over a lot of the noises that go around, and I do not know how to edit them out. I do hear them, and I hope and pray that they are not too audible in my videos. Sometimes they are. Like yesterday, there was someone's voice making an odd noise. I don't live alone, and I can't control some of the noises that people around me make. Sometimes I start off recording and it's nice and quiet, and then out of the blues you might hear someone in the front in the road, because I live in a suburban area and it's just houses, houses, houses. And in my home itself, well, there's people activity out of my control. I try my best to get into a quiet area, but even if I start off quiet, sometimes the devil is busy, is what I would say. But some of the things they just come out of the blue. Honestly, just at the time when I'm ready to record, or while I'm recording, is when the devil sets someone up to make a silly noise or to do some nonsense. And I would tell you, even in this seemingly simple thing that I do here, reading these chapters every day, the devil isn't happy with it. And I tell you, whatever it is God inspires your heart to do with this new year concerning his work, do it. It might seem so trivial, but it's going to be beneficial to someone, and the devil won't like it, but that's okay. That's what we're here for, to displease the devil. So I'm going to keep on, and God help me. I'm going to learn how to edit. I promised myself that this year, that's one of the things I'm going to learn to do. So help me God, I'll make that happen. So until our next meeting, remember, keep listening, despite all the strange noises you might hear, because faith does come by hearing God's word. Take care. Bye.